All right, let's go to the NFC North. Let's start with the Green Bay Packers. Their win total is 11. It's minus 110 on both sides. They should have a pretty good O-line if everyone can kind of get healthy. I haven't
Bakhtiari just came off the pup
Yeah.
list too, so
Yeah, I haven't favored in 13 games. So, I mean, they're 3-0 over with LaFleur. They've been crushing their preseason win total by an average of 3.7 wins a year. So, it's one of those unders that, I kind of look at and say, okay, Devontae Adams is gone. They got a lot going on at receiver, but I like the defense. What do you think?
yeah, the offense, I mean, still has Rodgers. The offensive line should be great. And they just know how to draft and develop offensive linemen. So, like, you lose a couple guys, it still should be solid. And Bakhtiari, obviously, coming off the pup list, if he's healthy, is massive at left tackle. The question is, I mean, the defense, I agree. The defense should be really good. You get Jair Alexander back, who missed majority of the last season and is arguably the best cornerback in the NFL. And if you have that, it allows you to do a lot more things on defense. And, Rashawn Gary, there's some good pieces on this defense. And, what it comes down to is, all right, how much now, if you look at a lot of the luck metrics, close games, fumbles and, turnovers, their special teams are a concern, by the way. We have to mention that because their special teams ended up costing their season last year and was awful all year. But they run really good in close games, but and turnovers. But you got Aaron Rodgers, your quarterback, and they tend to play a little conservative once they get big leads. And Aaron Rodgers is going to win close games, and he consistently does that. And some coach, I forget who it does, RDJ Sports, they do the NFL coach rankings based on play calling, aggressiveness. But LaFleur's finished number 1 in 2 straight years, so it's time to give him his due. And like you said, he's gone over with ease in each of the past 3 years. So the defense should be good, assuming health. And even what's his name? Campbell at linebacker came out of nowhere last year. I think he was top 50 in the NFL 100 this year for NFL Network. And so the defense has a ton of potential with a healthy Alexander back. And on offense, it just comes down to, okay, obviously, and you're assuming Rodgers isn't going to take a step back with his age. So if that's the assumption, it's okay. How important was Devontae Adams? And the answer is it was very important. But this is a very efficient offense with a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I think that you're going to probably see, I'm curious to your thoughts. I mean, Romeo Doubs was my guy in college. Maybe he's looked phenomenal. I didn't love the Watson get, but Doubs, I was like, how did this guy fall to the 3rd round when it happened? And now he's, there's some drop issues, but he is absolutely electric. Because you lose your deep threat in Scantling, who's been very up and down with the Packers. But all right, who's going to step up? Is it, you do have 2 really good backs. So is it more Jones in the slot too, which I'm assuming you're going to see? So there's some things that Green Bay can do, but there's definitely going to be a drop off when you lose one of the best receivers in the NFL, who was just unguardable and third, just such a safety blanket for Rodgers. But yeah, I mean, I think that this team I have projected what their win total sitting at 11.
Yep.
I haven't projected for like 10-6, 10-7. And so I would lean under barely, but not enough to play. They'll be a tough out once again. And I'm curious to see how the offense evolves in the post Adams era.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Dobbs. Just looking at who they have at that wide receiver position, Allen Lazard, he's been targeted on about 16% of his routes in his career. That's about half as much as Devontae Adams. Randall Cobb is, on the back end. Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy, and he's also really kind of dropped off in terms of his ability to get open in these last few years. So I think Dobbs is that guy, 12 targets on 29 routes in the preseason so far. That's 42%. That's a guy who's going to get open. I think they're going to live with the drops eventually because I think he's their best receiver already. It would be nice if Watson got healthy and they could roll with, Dobbs, Watson, and probably play Lazard in the slot, gives them good run blocking there. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Jones and Dillon. And, you look at this team and, they only had 10.4 Pythagorean wins last year, which is 2.6 fewer than their actual wins, which were 13. But a lot of that was just they didn't come to play in week 1. They just got blown out by 35. So that kind of changes the entire, their entire stats pretty much in terms if you're looking at points and point differential and all that stuff. They lost 38-3 to the Saints in week 1 in New Orleans. So I think that's gonna LaFleur is gonna probably throw that tape on, getting ready for this week 1. Like, see what happens when you don't show up. So I don't think that's gonna happen again. It's just not a team I want to bet under on, even with the loss of Adams. You got Rodgers and his defense is just too many guys all over the place on defense. Like they could be like one of those teams that every game is like 21-13 or something like that. But I expect them to keep on winning.
Yeah, you also could get Tanyan back at tight end. You'll get him back at some point, and Jenkins. But yeah, especially if Stokes, takes another step at one of the cornerback spots, man. Because you got Amos and Savage, you got pass rushers, Campbell's emergence at linebacker, and then obviously Alexander is the cornerstone. This defense is no slouch, and just okay. What nuances can the offense introduce to make up for the loss of Adams? And you have Rodgers and a head coach who has exceeded mine, I think everyone's expectations, and you got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, he's like another Sean McVay. It's just, he's got Aaron Rodgers, so people don't look at it. McVay had Goff when he got there, so everyone noticed when he was winning. But when you have Rodgers, people just kind of write you off. But I really like LaFleur. Let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings. I love the Vikings this year, actually. I think, they're one of those teams that another kind of like the Eagles. Like, I could see a situation where they get some luck, get some turnover luck, some fumble luck, some one-score luck. I could see them with 12 or so wins. They were a little bit unlucky in the injury front last year, but I just think this roster is pretty solid all around. On offense, I think the line, they have decent tackles. Cousins at quarterback's thrown 68 touchdowns, 20 picks since he got Jefferson. Thiel's still hanging in there, even though he's getting up there in age. He's an elite touchdown scorer and route runner. And then on defense, you got the safeties, Smith and Bynum, who I really like. You still got Hunter. You got a pretty solid defensive line. Tomlinson in the middle, Phillips. Cam Dantzler turned into one of the better corners in the league last year. Peterson, he's probably not to be trusted, but if they could just kind of get maybe one more corner to step up, I think this team could go a long way. I like the Vikings. What about you?
Yeah, a weird team last year. They definitely got unlucky in the injury front. They just played a million close games, just heart attack finishes all year. But I agree. I think similar to the Giants, they'll benefit immensely from the coaching change and O'Connell coming in. Mm-hmm. Just this, they can get away from this. All right, let's just run it on first down and the most predictable offenses, with 2 receiver sets and hand it off on first down. Just inefficient offense that I think will make a jump from getting rid of Zimmer. Overall aggressiveness, fourth downs. I think that will improve as well. I think the offensive line is also, which has been a sore spot for the Vikings for years, but I think that there's finally some promise there. I think the young pieces on the interior have shown enough flashes. You get Darrisaw at tackle for a full season, then obviously O'Neal on the right side. So yeah, I think that the offense, and obviously top tier skill position talent at wide receiver and running back. And then the defense, as you mentioned, it's going to transition to a new scheme. But look, on the edge now, if you can keep Hunter and Zadarius Smith healthy, I mean, that's a extremely formidable pass rushing duo. I agree. I love Dantzler. I like the safeties. Peterson's on the way down. But there are teams, aka the Giants, who are much worse than a future Hall of Fame corner is past his prime out there. So yeah, I like the Vikings a lot, and I'm trying. We said 3-1. It's come down a little bit to win the division, which I like, and I also like even money. It's come down a little bit, so I don't like it as much, but even money to make the playoffs I really like in the NFC. I think this is at least a 9-win team. And if you look at the NFC, and we'll talk about this throughout our NFC previews, it's like, all right, the Rams, the Bucks, Eagles, Cowboys, like each division, you have like one team. And there's so many questions, but look at Seattle. Seattle got worse. We still don't know about San Francisco and their quarterback situation. And there are so many bottom tier teams that I think that the Vikings there's value in them to make the playoffs. I project 9-7. So I would lean over on them, but I prefer make the playoffs. You can make the playoffs with 9 wins. And then to win the division, especially if you can get like 3-1 or better, as we talked about in our previous episode.
Yeah, I like the Vikings have been one of those teams that just it's the one where I'm like, okay, which division future do I like the best? The Vikings. Which playoff future do I like the best? The Vikings. Win total, it's getting a little juiced up at -130, but still like the over 9. I think that week 8 game at home against Arizona could go a long way to deciding if they make the playoffs, because if they could just handle business there, like you said, I think it's Cowboys, Eagles. I think it's the Packers, and then the Bucks, and then Rams, Niners. You got one more, and I think that's the Vikings, with Arizona being next up after the Vikings. So if they can beat Arizona there, get that tiebreaker, I like their chances. And I think O'Connell's odds have come down a little bit. I like them at 20-1. He's down to 16-1. There's a lot of competition for Coach of the Year, but to win one of those things, you're gonna have to win 11, 12 games. And like Dan Campbell, the Lions aren't gonna win 11, 12 games. So there's some coaches on this list that aren't. And I think O'Connell and the Vikings can. Now, obviously, Josh McDaniels and Hackett can as well, but and maybe Mike McDaniel, but I think O'Connell's definitely in the running for that as well. So a lot of ways to invest in the Vikings. We just got to keep Kirk Cousins healthy though, because his backup quarterback situation it's not good. They just traded for Nick Mullins, but it's not great. All right, let's wrap it up with the Lions and the Bears. Let's start with the Lions. The win total 6.5, juiced up to the over -125. Love their O-line. Love their offense. They got really unlucky with injuries. 30th in adjusted games lost last year. I only have them favored in 4 games, but I am bullish on at least their offense for this year. I think Jared Goff, it's going to be, he's not the greatest quarterback, obviously, but when you put decent pieces around him, which I think he has, I think he could be solid. And I think this team might end up being like a shootout team this year, because still don't love the secondary. I think it'll be bad. But the offensive line, I think, is top 5. I think you got, Amon-Ra St. Brown can get open and do a lot of things for you. Reynolds and Chark on the outside until Williams gets back is solid. And Hawkinson is a good tight end catching the ball. Swift is a good running back catching the ball. Offense is fine. It's just the defense doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, it is still Jared Goff. So I think the ceiling is limited. That I'm not a fan of Goff, but I do like the offensive line, which had injuries last year too, was profiled as one of the best in the NFL if they can stay healthy. That's where they've invested a lot of capital. So yeah, I love their offensive line. I love St. Brown, tight end, running back. They have some solid pieces on the offense, and Goff can be serviceable, as we've seen. Yeah, they were really unlucky in one possession games too. I think they lost 3 or 4 games on the final play. That I remember that Vikings game with Cousins, and Justin Tucker had a 66-yard field goal after they didn't call a delay of game. A 66-yard field goal. That's how they lost one of their games. So yeah, one of the reasons why they lose at the end is because their secondary is so bad. I mean, if you look at their secondary right now, they're going to need Okudah, and their front 7 should be better with better injury luck, but they're going to need Okudah to be something. This guy's a top 5 pick, and headed into camp, he's 2 weeks ago, he was second on the depth chart at corner behind Will Harris. Will Harris has been, Will Harris must have nudes on somebody. Will Harris has been the worst safety in the NFL, starting for the Lions for like 3 or 4 years. And then he got thrown in. Now, granted, the Lions had a ton of injuries in the secondary last year. We're throwing just anyone out there. Yeah, I think they called you at one point, but you were busy on a podcast. And yeah, Will Harris had to start a couple games at corner, and now he was like number one on the depth chart over Okuda, the top 5 pick. It can't be a good sign. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to fire him up, but yeah, they didn't really do much to address that. I mean, they added Deshaun Elliott, who's going to start in place of Will Harris. So yeah, the secondary is in the NFL, which is extremely important, is really troublesome. Goff, they also have, their schedule. I haven't projected like at 6.2, 6.3. I think that the love for line's got a little out of hand. Maybe that's like some hard knock stuff. Yeah. But I do have them with the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL. So I mean, if you look, they got like the Seahawks at home, Washington at home. They even open up with Philly at home. One of their tougher opponents, but that's where you want. You want one of your tougher opponents at home to open up the year, I think. They have the Giants. They obviously have the Bears twice. We'll get to them, but I think they're going to be terrible. They get the Jags at home. They're at the Jets, at the Panthers. But it is worth mentioning, like 3 of their last 4 on the road against teams that they could beat: Jets, Panthers. They close out the year at Green Bay. Maybe Green Bay is playing for nothing. But those are all outdoors in December and January. Golf outdoors, not your best bet. So keep that in mind. So yeah, this is a no play for me. This like play hard knocks. I think narrative has gone a little bit too far with the lines. I like Campbell. I actually love Campbell, and I like where Detroit is headed. But Goff really limits their ceiling, and the secondary is. They need Okuda to figure it out somehow, and I haven't seen any signs that he's going to. So no play on the Lions for me, but there's certainly signs that are give you a little bit more reason for optimism in Detroit than you've had in quite some time.
This is just an over team. Like this is they were 7-10 to the over last year, so maybe people will sleep on it, but I think this team is going to be one of the the most heavy over teams of any team this year. They could have the worst defense in the league. I mean, you mentioned it. They got this guy Harris potentially starting at corner. They really don't have anyone that has proven themselves at the cornerback position. The safeties are, I think, average at best. The linebackers are bad. They got who they got: Anzalone, Barnes.
Barnes, Chris Board.
Yeah, it's not looking good there. And then the interior line also not very good. Aiden Hutchinson obviously is going to help on the edge, and Charles Harris had a good year for the first time in like 5 years last year, so maybe he can keep it going, but that's no guarantee. He was a former first-round pick though, but there's really maybe two guys that I would call, 2 or 3 guys that I would call above average on this defense, and a lot that I would call below average. So, I think the offense is not going to be the problem at all. Like I think it's going to be fine. I think it might even surprise some people. I think it's kind of built for Goff to have success. They got a good tight end to catch the ball. They got a good running back to catch the ball. They got their best receiver is St. Brown, who, he's not going deep, which is not Goff's strength. And then, they got 2 decent guys to kind of take some coverage away on the outside that can make contested catches when they have to. So I think the offense will be fine. But this is going to be a bad defense.
Yeah, I mean, one of their maybe better players is Okwara. But you got like Hutchinson, you drafted Hutchinson. So like, I saw Okwara a couple weeks ago, like sent out a warning to opposing offenses. I don't think any opposing offenses took that too seriously.
Yeah, like I said, this is going to be an over team. Just watch it. I can see it now. All right, let's close. But
Dan Campbell covers, man. He was great against the spread last year. He covers, and he doesn't stop trying to cover for you if you bet them until the bitter end. I'll never forget that 49ers game.
Yeah, I think they'll be a good team to probably bet, week to week. But like you said, I think the love has just gotten a little out of hand. Needing them to win 7 games now with this defense. I mean, that's a tough ask. All right, let's close out with the Bears. That was my favorite under earlier in the preseason. Now it's under 6.5 at -190. So you have to get an alt line, probably 5.5 to get some decent odds. I don't hate that. Obviously, would rather get the best of the number. But this team, I think it has a bottom 5 O-line. I have them favored in 2 games. Receiving core outside of Mooney is bad. Fields, even if you think he's going to improve, which I do, I like him in fantasy, but he had the worst QBR in the league last year. The running backs are solid, but running backs don't really matter when it comes to point differential. The defense, they're going to be relying on rookies in the secondary. A lot of their players that are supposed to be the best players on that defense haven't really been good last year, like Smith and Jackson. So I just don't see a lot to like for the Chicago team outside of just, Fields should be exciting. And I like Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, but you have Fields in the second year rookie contract, and this team is in shambles. So you got to hope that he has a big year and you can fix some things in the offseason. I actually like the coaching hire, Eberflus, but there's not much he could do this year. You didn't even mention the offensive line, which is arguably the worst in the NFL. Who their starting receivers are besides Mooney are Pringle and Jones, Jones.
Equinemius St. Brown.
Equinemius. The defense is you're starting a couple of rookies in the secondary too. And then obviously they're in cap disaster mode. Similar to the Giants, are just in a terrible situation. So you had to let Hicks go. You trade away Matt. I like those moves, but it's obviously not going to help your defense much this year. There is nothing good to like about that. I don't like anything about this team this year. It's going to be a long year in Chicago. I project them. Yeah, we gave out one of my favorite bet on our preseason our pre-draft pot was under 7 even money. That's obviously no longer available. I project them at they have an easy schedule. I project them at 5-8, 5 around there. So under 7, yeah. Under 6.5, not at -190, which is basically 6. So it's probably a pass, but I would lean under. There's not many redeeming qualities about this team for a brand new regime. They had no first round pick. They're basically just cleaning up the cap. And yeah, it's ugly. It's an ugly roster.
Maybe they'll have a pass rush. They got, they still got Quinn and that 5th rounder Gibson played really well last year, but you got to look long and hard to find good players on this roster. Maybe Cole Kmet takes a step forward as well at tight end.